Coronavirus cases hit new single-day highs. So there's been a little bit of hype about the coronavirus cases over the last week or so, and there's concern coming up for 4th of July if there's going to be a big spike after this. But the death rates have still been consistently going down, and so we'll see, in the next few weeks if the death rates start coming up or not. And people are saying maybe it's just that we're testing more and seeing more cases, but um, this is something to watch for the 4th of July. Officials say celebrate your freedom by locking yourself in your house. But I just wanted to just take a look at the news blast, and then I'm gonna flip through a whole bunch of our COVID-19 coronavirus hot stocks that I did over the last month or so. I had a bunch of different stocks that are developing vaccines or antibodies or testing things like that. So let's go jump in and see how these stocks are doing. So just a quick update again on the S&P, same as the last video, but we did get futures trading all day today, even though the market was closed, and it did break down here below the kind of the support line that it had going here over the last week, where it crossed this whole territory. And so this breakdown is bearish looking and could potentially have a bearish target down here. And then, of course, for the bulls, you want to get up here and get up here. And so I was thinking probably 70-30 kind of bearish setup looking at this. And then, like the financials have stayed weak and the small caps have stayed weak, but like the infotech sector, the Qs, NASDAQ have just been on a rip. And then also Tesla just hit a record. Yeah, 12. Tesla just went parabolic and gapped up to over 1200. So yeah, there's a huge separation between the infotech stocks, which are still doing stock buybacks, and like the small caps and the financials, which are not doing stock buybacks, and they also are a lot more vulnerable to bankruptcies and solvency risks and the low interest rates. And so that separation is something to take a look at. But this video is about coronavirus stuff. So Moderna is one that is developing the mRNA vaccines. So mRNA is, I guess, probably maybe number two in kind of the race for a vaccine, and it's mRNA vaccine, which is messenger RNA. So this is one of the vaccines where instead of injecting antigens and trying to get your body to respond, you actually just inject the mRNA, the coding for the proteins or the antibodies that you want your body to build. But this stock has broken down and back tested its kind of bubble line that it was on. Did a parabolic bounce and stayed on. Now it's broken, back tested. This looks like it wants to come down, and there's not really any support until you get down to, well, I mean, the moving average is here, and the previous kind of bull line is pretty far down here. Yeah, so this looks like it wants to break down, and so like 40, and this is not investment advice, but 42 as kind of the moving average area to see how it responds in there. And then this kind of 30 area is where the non-bubbly kind of the bottom support trend line has been, is down here. And so is this thing really going to come all the way back down there? My goodness, look, it went up to almost 100. And yeah, it could come back down here. I don't know if these stocks are done being hypey though. I mean, there should be hype on these through the end of the year, but just looking at the chart and the technicals, this looks like it is breaking down, and there's not much below holding it up. So Definitely, this is one to be careful with. And let's check out, I guess, MBio. No, that's not the stock. It's TBio, Translate Bio. And so this one looks like it's still on its kind of bubble run line here. And that looks like a consolidation spot that could stay on the bull line to me. And so I would be looking for a little bit more confirmation that we're staying above this bull line. And then this one actually has a pretty good history of doing this kind of behavior. And they had a section back here, I believe. And if we jump back, yeah, this one's crazy. So, I mean, they went from pennies to tens, and now this is a bubble kind of hype line. That looks like it's still holding. And so T-Bio is another mRNA vaccine, but they're a lot later on the schedule, not until next year probably, to see what's going on. But this one still has its bubble line intact. So that's an interesting one to take a look at. So here's FLGT, Fulgent Genetics, and all of these companies. If you go back to my coronavirus COVID playlist, you can find kind of the breakdowns of what these companies are working on and why they're on hypey trajectories and things like that. But this one's not hypey. This one did kind of the crash that everyone did, and it did a general kind of rebound that follows the general health industry, and it has just been chopping around like the rest of the market over here. And so it doesn't look like it has broken down yet, but this is not like a hypey bubble. It looks like it still has some trend kind of support, and it still has the moving average support here. But this one's not off on some like rocket ship trajectory. Just chopping around, not too interesting. And here's Sanofi SNY. So this is another vaccine that they're working on. And this one looks like it is probably still holding up on a little bit of a hypey trajectory. So this is one to watch and make sure it's not breaking down. It doesn't look like it is. So this one could be a pretty good chart for day trading here. Not investment advice, but yeah, this is a bigger company that isn't going to be quite as crazy as something like T-Bio or something like that. But yeah, this is a super bullish chart and a bit bubbly. But that's what these stocks are all about. So this is a good looking chart. Just uh, just place put your stops in. If it breaks down, it's dangerous. So CTXR, Citius Pharmaceuticals. So these guys are working on um, some drugs for supporting for symptoms, for related symptoms. Yeah, so they did kind of a general trend that the whole medical sector did here, and then they obviously had a nuts news blast, and so this is something to watch. Is this thing gonna? It's a little early to tell if it's gonna try to get off on a sharp bull market line or if it's going to hang out on a lower line here. So it doesn't have enough of a trend really to see. But if it does bounce a little bit more in this direction and find support, this could be one that could get a bubbly, hypey stock. And if it breaks down, then, downward target down to this area here around $1. And so, this is only trading around in the dollar range. So this one could move. I can make crazy moves. I mean, this is just like 2x in a day here. Yeah, so this chart potentially bullish, but not enough really confirmation yet to see. And that's CTXR. And here's FRSX. This is Foresight Autonomous. So they were a sort of automotive camera company, and they're coming out with COVID cameras for detection. And so this is kind of, where's the crash? Around here. Yeah, so they did sort of the healthcare sector kind of crash and rebound. And now they've just shot off onto a hype bubble trajectory here, and it looks like they're hanging on to it. Yeah, so this is maybe even a little lower here. Yeah, so this is a pretty cool trend line to take a look at here. And so this one is starting to flag out, and that's a good bullish signal here. But just want to make sure that it does in fact get support and turn up a little bit before the next kind of move, and it might flag again. And then as far as the support, I mean, this chart is just, ugh. There's not really a good support area. Something like that, maybe down by $1. And same kind of thing. See if it can get support on a higher trend line, and then that's a fun one. And then same thing if it breaks down, dangerous. And then FIO Pharmaceuticals. This is one I have on my COVID playlist, but they're working on cancer stuff, and so they got a hypey news blast back here, but haven't. This isn't the COVID hype, and this news blast completely just reverted back down to the floor, and so they look like they'll just kind of keep trading down there. Not super exciting on that one. And here's Arca Biopharma. And so these guys came out with a big news blast for a potential COVID treatment for blood clotting, and they have a history of crazy spikes and kind of crashing out. So this one has not set up any kind of a bull line. This is just a descending kind of reversal off a parabolic. This is a bad shape. So this kind of technical shape where you have this descending shape with a flat floor is not a good shape. More often than not, this thing is just going to flatten out, and then it'll just kind of usually drop out before it continues on with whatever it's going to do. And so I don't like this technical setup at all, and it is starting to flatten out. So this I think is a high risk of dropping down a bit here, and there's no kind of bull market line on this thing that looks interesting for kind of a long bubble trade or anything like that. And AstraZeneca, this is AZN. And so these are the guys that were working with Oxford University on their vaccine, which had really bad test results. And I think they have ownership of one of the mRNA vaccine companies. Yeah, it's Moderna. So actual mRNA ticker symbol is, they have a stake in that company, and they're also working with Oxford, and they also have some treatments for other symptoms related to COVID, and they're also just a massive, pharmaceutical company that the COVID hype isn't 100% of their trading. And this has been a super bullish chart that got a huge bounce off the crash, and it's just been chopping sideways just like the rest of the market. So I think the COVID hype on this one is sort of dying down, and we saw mRNA is potentially breaking down, and the Oxford vaccine had bad news. So as far as the chart, it's just blah. I don't know. This could break either way, and it could keep chopping for a while before it does. And yeah, the vaccines that it's working on are a small percentage are getting bad news or a bad chart. So this one doesn't look super hot at the moment, but who knows? You could get different news soon. But just looking at the chart, it's just kind of a blah chart. It got a good bounce, and yeah, that could break. It could break either way. It could break either way, and it probably will continue to consolidate down for a little bit longer before it breaks. but it could potentially make a pretty good move when it does after a big consolidation like that. But this isn't like a hypey chart. Well, not yet. I mean, if it does decide to break up, whoops, whoa. If it does decide to break up, well, I mean, I guess the way to trade this one is to just follow this triangle as it consolidates, and then if you get a bullish breakout signal on the triangle, you could take a long trade on this, and then you can see after that, if it starts to flag out sideways, you can kind of see if it gets support and if you can find a bull market line on this thing. But I don't think this company is kind of hypey. I don't think it's off on a line like that. I think that it's more likely just to get a pretty standard breakout move, 50-50 which direction it goes. So it's an interesting one, I guess, but it's not kind of the crazy hypey ones that I've been looking at. And this is the last one. This is Workhorse, and this stock should probably be more on like the hot tech stock playlist than on the COVID playlist. Oh, and please smash the like button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. But yeah, so these guys have been setting up UPS delivery trucks and launching drones off of them, and they may be getting close to actually going into production and getting a deal. And they've been working with Amazon in the UK. So these guys want to create electric delivery trucks with drones. And there's a little bit of Corona hype on this right now because they can deliver medical supplies to hospitals. And yeah, so the COVID thing is a smaller thing than just their company is getting close to actually producing delivery trucks with drones, which would be pretty cool, for companies like UPS. And yeah, it's not quite enough action to set up a really good line here, but it looks like it's trying to flag. Looks like it might be trying to do a bull flag. So if it flags out, it's probably bullish, and could try to catch a trade on it. If it does do that, and see if it gets a little bit more support, and see if it wants to hang on to this, to this crazy. What is this trajectory? This is like a double. It's like a double bubble. What's it even doing right now? Something like that. Yeah, this one doesn't quite have enough data to draw good support lines. Yeah, maybe it's more like this. I don't really know where to try to target a breakdown. I guess all the way down here around 15 is where I would probably be assuming a breakdown might follow through down to here. And then yeah, I don't know. That's a tricky spot. I don't know if that's on a higher level trend line or not, or how far to try to trend this out. That's a hard technical setup. But yeah, this stock is getting plenty of attention, and it might need a little more time to figure out what this chart looks like before trying to set up a long trade. But I think a breakdown to like 15 or something would set up a bearish trade, kind of at the ugliest case. But it might be a little bit tighter than this for a support line for a bullish move. And that would be a really high angle support line if it does get support like this. But just need a little more time and more data to see what this graph actually looks like. Yeah, so that's that's it for the kind of follow up on the coronavirus stuff, and we'll see how 4th of July goes, if we get a crazy spike in cases or not. Um, but yeah, as far as the death rate goes, it's been going down, so that looks pretty good actually. Um, so yeah, hopefully we don't get an insane breakout or anything terrible over the long weekend, and have fun and, you know, whatever, shoot some fireworks, or I don't know, people are supposed to stay at home, like watch fireworks on your TV or something. Uh, yeah, have a good holiday weekend. Happy 4th of July.